Bay Electric Company, and John will be delivering remarks on project labor agreements and card checks. John?
Great. Thank you, Harry. And thanks for the kind words. Being the youngest of 14 kids, I'd like to say I'm pretty humble, and hopefully what I say today will come over as that. Some of the things I want to talk about, Bay Electric Company, it was a company founded over 45 years ago. I bought it roughly almost 11 years ago. We've grown 70 times the size from when I first bought it. Two brothers in the business with me. It's been through hard work. We do a lot of federal government work from Maine to Florida. So with that said, I want to explain some of the impacts of one, project labor agreements, and also the EFCA Act, which is going to be coming to our right starboard here shortly. What is EFCA? It's the acronym stands for the Employee Free Choice Act, but actually what it really says and does is as following. It actually takes away the right for people to secret ballot. I think that every member of Congress has been elected via secret ballot. Everyone in this room, when you do vote, it's via secret ballot. So on its surface, this potential act is what I would characterize as almost un-American. Well, really is un-American. What does it do? It actually, first, it requires a National Labor Relations Board to certify a union after a firm's majority has signed union cards. Now, that is a far cry from currently how the system works. Typically, a union has to go in, organize in a company, they'll get 51%, 50 plus 1 of these union cards signed. Then the National Labor Relations Board comes in, and then a process runs through. This will remove that. Immediately, if a union gets 50 plus 1, automatically you are put into binding arbitration. You have approximately 60 or 90 days. If you do not come to a resolution, you will be union, and in effect, a judge will place conditions upon your employees and you as a contractor and or government, or for that matter, private. So big deal there. It also drastically increases the penalties for unfair labor practices only on the side of the employers. Nothing is addressed with the unions and some, issues that may arise with coercion and things like that. So on the surface, that is not very fair. How does it affect small women and really minority-owned contractors? A lot of ways, especially in the construction industry and also the services industry via government or really private. It actually hampers over the 90% of businesses that, quote unquote, are not union. So you've got 9 out of 10 businesses are not union. So in essence, you are being against on that sense. Okay, it actually discriminates further against minorities in general, as a vast number of unionized companies currently are non-minority. I think the numbers, and I'm pretty well on cue, less than 2% of all minority companies are unionized. And I think that number kind of speaks for itself. It also disenfranchises minority contractors as a whole by removing this right to secret ballot, which in essence removes a level playing field. And with that said, I'm going to move and be respectful of time on the PLA issue, which is something that's really near and dear to my heart. We're a federal government contractor. In my former life, I served union apprenticeship, actually here in Washington, D.C., Local 26 IBW, served union apprenticeship, know that side of the fence. In actuality, unions in general, years ago, certainly were a very good thing when you had sweatshops and things like that. The thing of today is that unions, in essence, want to run your company, but there's a lot of things I'm going to roll through. Project labor agreements. The president has signed this Executive Order 13502, which mandates project labor agreements in excess of $25 million. But there's a lot of caveats. It, in essence, could be any project that has $1 of funding in it. Kind of the fearful thing on my end, during the previous administration, when banks were given this TARP money in essence, every project that's going to come out of the ground will have at least $1 of federal government money in it. So, in essence, it could affect every piece and corner of the U.S. economy. Most notably, PLAs were used. I don't know if folks know about the Big Dig over in Boston. I think the numbers, I think it's, one of the selling points that proponents of PLAs say that, hey, if you sign a PLA, there'll be no labor unrest. Whereas that's kind of an oxymoron because 90% of the folks are non-union, so you probably wouldn't have any strikes or any labor unrest. So that's, that's kind of a sidebar. That project began many years ago. The budget initially was about $3.5 billion. I think the final price tag ended up in excess of $15 billion and approximately 7 years late. So the tenets of PLAs on the surface doing all these wonderful things has not bore itself out. Really closer to here, if you look at the Woodrow Wilson Bridge, and that's a case in point on PLAs, the Maryland side was done with a project labor agreement in force. The Virginia side was not. Cost overruns in excess of $300 million were had on the Maryland side versus the Virginia side. Now, there's a lot of things that may have contributed to the dollars, but I would submit that PLAs had a large part in that. On the surface, it's always framed that project labor agreements will help wages. It's really not a wage issue. As a government contractor, I'm mandated to pay Davis-Bacon wages anyway, okay? So it's not something where the vast majority of workers are going to magically, their wages are going to come up, overnight. That's kind of, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense there. Some of the pitfalls for minority contractors. Past history shows us by and large, the labor movement has not been kind to minorities, both in numbers and ranks, as well as contractors and companies that certainly, are unionized. The little secret is one of the big things that unions want to get more people in is because of these unfunded, pension liabilities to the tunes of tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars. And it's something that on the surface, it's a bad thing. I mean, in essence, if my company were to get unionized and I had to take on these unfunded pension liabilities, my company, in essence, would be worthless, which would affect my bonding, of course, which allows us to get federal government jobs. Any project with the federal government over $100,000, you have to have what's called a P&P bond, performance bond, and also a payment bond. So that's a big deal. And I'm going to say, in closing, PLAs are not good. It's not good for the country as a whole. It certainly wouldn't be good from the 90% or 93% of companies and workers that are non-unionized. So with that said, thank you. Thanks for being here. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you, John.